we have for this closing panel, which basically, if you were here for the opening panel, you would have seen that we talked about the past. We talked about the past year. And for this closing panel, we're looking ahead. We're basically talking about the next 1 year and what's in stock and what we need to do. So I have with us here Charlie Marshall Ngunu, who's a founder of Afro Leadership and is, of course, the lead of the Cameroon Digital Rights Coalition. Please make welcome my brother, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. Same place.
Yeah. No, not the same place. All right. Grace Githaiga, who I think Grace is just outside the room. So any of the ushers, could you please tell Grace? You can't miss Grace. Just say Grace when you get outside. You can't miss her. She's got a presence. Just say Grace is co-convener of KICTANET. That's the Kenyan ICT Action Network. Grace will join us in a second. And Ashraf Howdy, who's the founder and president of iWatch. And what we'll do is, once I get the second panelist with me here, we'll just start. I want to make sure that we ask all the questions that we need to ask from the panelists, and then have, because I look forward to the interaction, like I said at the opening, with the experts in the room. It is not an afterthought. It's not like we have a few minutes left, let's just take a few questions. No, I want us to have a conversation about the future, because the reason we're here is so that we can change outcomes in some areas and in some other areas to make sure that the lessons we have learned, we're able to apply them. So let me just ask, for those of us who are in the room right now, how many of us have made new, okay, I want to say friends, but I mean new colleagues, people you're going to work with, you've identified, areas of common interest? Please let me see your hands up. If, by the way, if you raise your hand and it's not true, I'll know and I'll call you out. So hands up again if you've met. My dad used to try that with me when I was much younger. Benga, did you take it? I'll be like, no, I didn't. Like, I have something in this house that talks to me. And if you don't tell me the truth now, and it worked for many years until I joined the bad gang. I went to secondary school and I realized that, wait a second, he was lying. There's nothing in this house. Please make welcome Grace Githaiga, co-convener, Kenyan ICT Action Network, as she does something very quickly and then makes her way to the stage. Welcome, Grace. And also please make welcome Ashraf Howdy, founder and president iWatch, and this is, I'm just waiting for you to get to the stage. I want to be a good host. And then I join you guys. Okay. Yes, Grace, it's just the four of us. And we've got all of 83 minutes and 34 seconds. All right, so I'm going to start from my left. I'm going to start from you, Charlie. I've got a few questions for everyone. And my first question to you is, who are you? And by that I mean, yes, we're talking about digital rights, we're talking about digital inclusion, but what got you into this? One of the things that I would love for you to talk about is, why did you, when you woke up and decided you were going to do Afro Leadership, what led to that? In 2 minutes, what is the motivation behind what you do today?
Thank you, Benga. I'm Charlie Marshall Ngunu. I live in Cameroon. And how did I get to Afro Leadership, if I have to go back so far? So if I have to go so backward. And in fact, I'm a consultant. I'm a public finance consultant. And as a public finance, I work on the side of building information systems for fiscal transparency. That's what I do for a living. So one day I decided to be the head of an initiative that would be a citizen one. Just that. And then I gathered friends and I said, guy, we can't be just working for money. Let's do something that can bring something, because I was saying, you know, when you are in public finance and you see the way a country is being led by those who govern the country, the way they spend public taxpayers' money, you are afraid of what might happen to your country tomorrow. And that's what led me to build Afro Leadership, and then by doing so, I got to this space of digital right. But that was just natural, because we are at Afro Leadership, we have most of all, we are techs. We are techies, so it was just normal that we get here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So, Gigi, anyone in the sector who doesn't know you is probably living under the rock. but I know there's a story, as you know, we say around it, there's a story to the glory. How did you end up here? Why are you doing this?
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Those who don't know me, they call me Gigi, but those are the initials of my two names, Grace Githaiga. How did I find myself here? By default. I tell people purely by default, because my background is in journalism, and I have found myself reinventing myself at every stage of my life. And so at this point, I had just come back from the States, and before going to the States on a Fulbright fellowship, I had been setting up community radio stations in the region. So I moved from journalism, I went into training, I went into journalism. I was a broadcaster with a national broadcaster, and then I came into starting the community radio stations, and I became the chair of the network in Africa. So I was moving all over Africa, helping people fight for the right to have inclusion in community radio. And so when I came back, when I went back from the States, we had been pushing for laws to have community broadcasting recognized as a third sector in broadcasting after public and commercial. And as soon as I arrived, somebody told me, oh, they are finalizing the broadcasting regulation. And I looked at the laws and I made a submission, you know. Actually, it was individual, but I indicated the name of the network. I had not even asked them for permission. So in 1.5 days, I was called to go and make a case. And so I had to inform the network. So we went, we made the case, then we were called for the final meeting. And when they produced the final document, practically 80% of what I had suggested had been incorporated. And so the head of the National Communications Secretariat turned to me and said, everything you have been pushing for has been incorporated. You are the winner in this law. So I think it's time you retired. And I thought, initially I was very offended, because I'm thinking, excuse me, you don't retire at my age. Then I thought, when I went home, I reflected. And I thought, I have actually given my best to the sector. I have no fresh ideas. And so within that time, there were these 2 scholarships. One was on broadcasting, one was on internet. And I had misread, so I knew I was going to apply for the scholarship on broadcasting, only to read the last day of the application and realize it was an internet scholarship. But I thought, you know, who am I? I'd better apply, miss it, than say, if only. And so there were 2 scholarships, one for Tanzania, one for Kenya. The broadcasting one was for Tanzania. The Kenya one was the internet. I applied. 10 days, they called me for an interview. Kenyans are very competitive. And so when I went to the University of Nairobi, they called me to go to the University of Nairobi And they told me, you know, you have to be here by 11. So I left the house at 8. You know, Nairobi can have traffic jams, and I didn't want anything to go wrong. But I remember when leaving home, I said, you know what? I am not an internet person, but this scholarship is mine. I went for the interview. I arrived very early, so they gave me a newspaper to read as they were interviewing others who were before me. And when I got in, I did the interview. I couldn't tell, you know the way you look at people's faces, their countenance, and you can't tell what they're thinking. But when they told me, do you have a question to ask? And I said, yes, I have one. Ask. And I said, how have I performed? And now the person who is my supervisor looked at me and said, I didn't know her. And she said, are you trying to be Kenyan? Are you trying to bribe us? And I said, no. I am just asking for a perspective of how I have performed. So they laughed. Then they told me, you will hear from us in 10 days because we still have other people we are interviewing. And I told them, in those 10 days, when you call, please tell me that this committee has given me the scholarship. And I stood and I left. And I forgot. But the same day, I remember it was 4:53 p.m. I got a call. It was a white person, and I didn't remember who it was. And he goes, hi, Grace. So this is Professor so-and-so. And I still can't figure out who that is. So how do you think you performed at the interview? Oh, so I sat up, I was in the car, I sat up straight. I said, you know, I think I performed, I gave it my best. I don't know if the committee thought I gave it my best, but I hope I impressed them to award me the scholarship. Then he goes, oh, you've been awarded the scholarship. And that's how I got into there. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you chose journalism, but internet chose you. Welcome. And for those who were at the opening panel, I did say that we're in the business of not minding our business, right? Because the work that we do is about taking care of not just ourselves, but also others. We needed you, and I'm glad we do. Okay, Ashraf and I met in February as Ashoka Globalizer Fellows. And one of the things I remember he said was that he was going to travel less. So, so when the team reached out, I was like, get ready, you may not get good news. But you're here. And you know, one of the things that I really would love, to hear is, I heard a story, then, but I'd like in 2 minutes a summary of how did you get to do what you do and why?
Hi everyone. Yeah, the plan was not to travel as much, but at the same time I couldn't say no. Various reasons, visiting Nigeria for the first time, being there for another Globalizer Fellow, definitely, so I should be here. I don't know if there was something exactly that pushed me to start my organization. By the way, it's a watchdog organization called iWatch. We work on anti-corruption and enhancing transparency, and we use a lot of technology. But at the same time, Tunisia had a unique opportunity compared to other countries in the region, which was the revolution 2011. And I remember one of the main and the very first slogans of the revolution in 2011 was employment, you bunch of thieves. So I was like, there are two options that now we can work on after the revolution, whether it's employment or the bunch of thieves. And we decided to work on the bunch of thieves, and then we started working on corruption. And when we say corruption, we try to do anything linked to access to information, elections monitoring, transparency, accountability. And so when we started, to be honest, we didn't know what we were talking about. So we would literally make these long sentences when we describe things, and then the other expert on the opposite would tell you, yeah, that's called conflict of interest. You will talk for 1 hour to explain the ideas, and people tell you, yeah, that's called accountability. We literally did not know what we were talking about. So we started this journey of learning by doing, making mistakes. But at the same time, I think what made the difference, that we were not afraid of appearing as stupid. We did not care whether people would perceive us as stupid or not. All we wanted to do is that we have a high tolerance for risks. We have a high tolerance for people judging us or thinking we're stupid. And with time, we started making a lot of mistakes, but learning faster. And I think now the organization is doing well. We're growing and expanding across the country. Financially, I think the organization is fine, stable for the upcoming at least 3 years. But for me, what was really important, that we managed to build our own expertise. That now iWatch has its own know-how, its own expertise that we can proudly share and say, this is something that we know how to do with this, or this is something that we can do differently than others. So I would describe it as a journey of taking risks, making a lot of mistakes, not being afraid of whether looking stupid or failing. So yeah, this is who we are.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll come back to you again, Charlie. So you've talked about how you got here. And before I ask the question about what we think as panelists, what do you think the next year looks like? You know, if you look into your crystal ball, you know, what does success look like for digital rights and digital inclusion in the next year? I just have one follow-up question for the three of you. You've talked a bit about your journey, and I've heard different things. You know, I've heard things that sound like coincidence. Does that sound familiar to anyone in the room? Like you were minding your business, and then some proposal came your way, and then you saw something like digital rights, and you were like, oh, well, digital makes sense, right? Digital makes sense, right? Digital, right? Digital, right? And now you're in digital rights. Okay, but the question is this. If you could go back 10 years in your career, 10 years ago, what do you know now that you would say to the younger version of yourself 10 years ago that would help you achieve a lot more than you've achieved by now? Maybe. So 10 years ago, what would you say to the younger Charlie in terms of career and life generally that would prepare younger Charlie for the kind of challenges you've seen in the last 10 years?
Okay, thank you. You were preventing me from saying something about this very complex question. Actually, because I'm forward-looking, so. Yes, if I have to go back, I think when I look at the challenges that I have today, I think I would have certainly engaged myself in, you know, human rights issues and expertise. Not probably as the core, not the core competency that I would have taken that time. But I think something that will be parallel to what I know today, because being a techie, knowing what I know about information technology, for me, that's the language that 7 billion people need to know. If you don't know much about information technology, whatever kind of language you speak, you are certainly excluded today. So I think I will have, if I go back now, 10 years before, I will certainly be working, like doing my computer science courses, doing my public finance courses, but doing also this, you know, course in human rights, everything that has to do with defending or maybe knowing what kind of right we need to defend. Because today, 10 years later, because I've been there already a minute ago, 10 years later, I see how much I've not been so, so pertinent in the way we have been advocating as civil society organization because we didn't have this background. If we had it, I think we would have done more than what we've done so far.
Okay.
Fortunately.
So, yes. Let me add this question on to the one you're answering. So, having said this, in terms of, you're talking a bit more about capacity building. So what, and you said you're a forward-looking person, right? So this, you like this. What does success look like for digital rights and inclusion in Africa? Because at times, when you're an advocate or when you are an activist and when you're fighting for things, it may be difficult to know what success is if you don't define it. So what would you consider success for digital rights and inclusion in Africa, focusing on the next year?
What do I envision for next year? If I take it from what we have been doing so far in Cameroon, because I think we need to focus, is that we keep on mainstreaming digital rights in activism and advocacy in Cameroon, because I think this domain is a bit complex for so many people. And when you look at if you want to do a kind of assessment and do kind of divide to know who is who in this room, you will certainly notice that people don't usually come from the core background that you need when you define digital rights. So what I think for me, for this year, and not to be dreaming too much, is that in Cameroon, that we make this coalition we've built bigger. Not by changing what people are already doing, because we won't become all experts in digital rights, and there is no need for that. But we need to make sure people, where they are, in what they do, that they add this flavor in their work. Be they broadcasters, journalists, or even public servants. They need to understand that we need to protect this right, because going digital today, it's a matter of survival. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll come to you, Grace. And yes, so the question is, what would you tell Gigi 10 years ago? And also, what does the next 1 year, what does success look like? But before I come to you, and you're from East Africa, and I'm sure some of you have already noticed, you've probably seen that our partner, CIPESA, I just got word now that Tanzania, I know anyone from Tanzania here? I mentioned Tanzania yesterday as the new Ethiopia. I understand that the ED of CIPESA, Wakabi, is being detained at the airport under controversial circumstances. And that's, I mean, in Tanzania. And that's the conversation we're having right now. So, Grace, I don't mean to put you under pressure, but is this what the next year is going to look like for East Africa and for the rest of the continent?
Let me just say I have no hard and fast answers to that. But we must be alert to the fact that governments have now started getting into our spaces. They are trying to understand, but the aim of them getting into this space is to really govern us, like they do with trees, with water. They do not understand that internet is not your usual bananas and mangoes governance. So they are going to be getting into these spaces. I specifically do not see that sort of the Tanzania, because Magufuli anyway. has been known, even as Kenyans celebrated him and thought he was the new, he was the new Jesus of East Africa. I think he's ended up being, and if he's not checked, he might end up being worse than some people we know in Uganda. So what we are saying is that we must be alert. If we are alert, for example, being alert means that we have to recognize that challenges exist. And this calls for us to have approaches that involve those who matter. So we need to map who are our allies. We need to map who are anti our work and come up with strategies of how to make them understand. I think it is very important to work with the national human rights commissions, which are government, but make them understand that our work is very serious. It's also very important that we work with the judiciary, because then they make the decisions. And if you're in a country that respects those decisions, then you know you are in the right spaces. But what I'm saying is that we must have conversations that also embrace the traditional civil society. If you notice, and I think somebody asked me this morning, how is it that your meetings, it's the same people? And I said, first of all, we are very few organizations in these spaces. The issue of the same people, I guess that's an organizational decision. And unlike Kictanet, which is a network and you keep seeing different people, some people are really few in the organization, and therefore they have to keep, attending these meetings. But what has to happen is that we must come up with a strategy as people working in digital rights of how we are going to bring on board the traditional civil society organizations. There is strength in numbers. But you see, when we go to meetings and we tell them, we do digital rights, we do internet governance, we are working in technology, people become, people become afraid because they think it's technical. The minute what is digital rights? First of all, internet governance sounds like something out of this world. So those are some of the strategies that we must bring on board so that we stop speaking to each other. We need to also start simplifying how we message. How are we getting our messages out there? And because we talk to each other, we sometimes don't realize that our language is full of acronyms, our language is full of technology language. So somebody who has not been in this sector will not sometimes understand. And when you ask, if I am speaking now in a sentence and somebody has to ask 5 questions out of that sentence, then you've lost them. So we must look at the way we are messaging, because we have to bring ordinary citizens into these conversations. But one thing I must also emphasize, whatever we plan, let us not be afraid to execute. And Benga is telling me about 10 years ago, when I got into Kictanet, I knew it was a multi-stakeholder platform. And I was very concerned that every time we are doing something, if one stakeholder is not represented, then I would feel like we are not doing the right thing. And I think one stakeholder, from the government, maybe learned that we were, getting uncomfortable. And so we kept postponing a lot of things because this particular stakeholder is not on board. And then, it was end of the year and we realized we had done very little one of the times. So one of the things I will want to tell you, if you plan for something and you have an execution strategy, please, the show must go on. It is your show. It is not their show.
The show must go on. Ashraf, you're not a stranger to confrontation and upsetting institutions of power. So in response to the question, what would you say to yourself 10 years ago? I'd like, your take from that angle. I mean, because at times when you hear that, oh, someone who is doing the kind of work you're doing has been delayed at an airport or has been picked up, you're human. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? Am I in trouble or something like that? What advice, based on what you know now, you've been through that, you've earned the badges and all, what would you say to yourself 10 years ago, and then looking forward in the next 1 year? What's your vision, not just for Tunisia, but also for all of the countries in your region, and of course across the entire continent of Africa?
10 years ago, like if I'm gonna talk to myself 10 years ago, I look them right in the eye and say, great job, man. I think 10 years ago I had the chance of finding this study that talks about the future of the internet, and it says that the future of the internet is mobile rather than a laptop. It's messenger and messaging in general rather than social media. And then that's why you see, at the time it did not make sense to me, but then seeing that Facebook was, if you remember, forcing you to download Messenger so that you can get into your inbox. Facebook going to buy WhatsApp and all these things. So I just like, yeah, this study was right. And then why I'm mentioning this study, because at the time when we wanted to develop apps, everyone would tell you you're crazy. Who's gonna use an app? You gotta develop a website. But the future says the future is mobile. The future is not desktop. The future is smartphone. And then if I go back 10 years ago, nobody had a smartphone, or at least very few people had one. Internet access was very, very limited. We all have Wi-Fi, no 3G, no 4G, soon no 5G. So that's why if you stick to the available infrastructure, you're gonna be somehow put into the future and you're not gonna look ahead. So what happened when we ignored some of the advice of not investing in apps, we positioned ourselves a little bit ahead of the curve when it came to civil society. So when people were struggling, let's say, into understanding, especially when it comes to traditional civil society, the idea where we don't get technology sometimes, we don't know how to use it. So when everyone was struggling on how can we use technology, we found ourselves that we're moving a bit faster than others that now we're trying to use blockchain into monitoring public finance, that we're using chatbots to do awareness among voters for the elections. But if we did not make these choices ahead of the time, or maybe in a time when it wasn't perceived as the wise, right decision, maybe we wouldn't reach that maturity of using technology. So that's why now I think we have that maturity, but it's something that we built up with time. And what my advice would be, definitely infrastructure shouldn't be something that prevent people from using technology, because people should look always in the future. You gotta use science, read what's the future, how does it look like, imagine it, and then just somehow start that journey. You'll feel first as a stranger, as if you're in new land, that you don't speak the language of the locals, but with time you'll start understanding. And for me, this is literally something we started 10 years ago, and I think now it paid its fruits. A year from now, I would definitely say we got to get inspired by technology. There is a word that we use now in managing our organization, which is the Bitcoin management. And the Bitcoin management, we use it to say that instead of you scaling up as an organization, you got to decentralize. So my organization, iWatch, we stopped expanding, we stopped scaling up. What we're trying to do now is create an ecosystem. Because with all these issues happening, with all these arrests, with the problems with the governments, it's very easy when you target the center of any building that it falls apart. If you go after one prominent civil society organization, if you go after one activist, that would make it too risky for the cause. So that's why you should not limit the cause into one group, one entity, one civil society organization. So what we're doing now, we're restructuring the whole organization to be somehow centerless, to be really as a Bitcoin that no one controls, and that very decentralized. So now we stopped having offices across the country. We're shutting them gradually. We're having partnerships. All the data we have, we're putting it online. Our training program that we used to do face-to-face, we're moving it into an e-learning platform. So the question that we should always be able to answer, if tomorrow morning they put us all in jail, would that make any difference? As long as the answer is yes, we still did not reach our objective. So now we want to do it as a Bitcoin. Nobody can control it till the day when we ask, if they put us all in jail, would that make any difference? The answer should be no, it doesn't. So that's what we're trying to do, at least for, didn't say 1 year, but the upcoming 3 years at least. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I know why the clubs are that way. Like, if they throw me in... Did you say jail? So, now to you. You've heard from Charlie, Grace, and you've heard from Achraf about what they see, right, for the next 1 year. What does success look like? Now, I'm coming to you. You work in various organizations. You've got boots on the ground. In the next 1 year, and can we have the mics roam the room now, please? Okay, we've got a mic here, and I'm just going to take about 5 people. 2 questions. 1, what does success look like for you in 1 year in your work around digital rights and digital inclusion? And secondly, what should we hold you responsible for when we see you either in April 2020 at Drift 20, or we see you at FIFA midway. Yeah, you know, FIFA is midway in September, right? That's, you know, CEPES's forum is in September, midway.
Or
so when we see you...
just making publicity for the RightsCon in Tunisia.
Oh yeah, he's Tunisian, so...
You should come.
Okay, what can we hold you for and say, you made this promise in April in Lagos, it's 6 months, it's 1 year. How far? Any hands? Now, this is not the time I say ask questions. That's when too many hands go up. This is where the rubber meets the road. What are you going to be responsible for in this sector? Because we can't all just gather old hands and sing kumbaya, right? We've got to do something. So what are you doing for the next 1 year? People are rubbing palms. Yeah, hands are going up. Okay. He's holding his head. Okay, now his hand is going up. All right, I've got 3, 4, I've got 5 people, but it's concentrated around Central Africa. I want North, East, West, and South. You know, Ashraf said we have strength in numbers. Let's do that. All right, let me start from this table. I saw Chiama's hand up. Then I'll go to the next table, and then I see you. I know you're under the lights, but I see you. Okay, let's start with you, Chiama.
Okay, thank you very much. Grace, I'm very excited by your animation. I think it's fantastic, and I really like your spirit just listening to you. And I stumbled into this entire, you know, advocacy accidentally as well, so I can totally, you know, I can totally relate. So what am I doing, and what can I be held to over the next year? So I run an enterprise for women called Tech Her. And my interests revolve around women in politics and just using technology as a lever to move them forward. As we know, you know, the statistics for women in politics in Nigeria are a disgrace at the moment. And so what I'm doing, what I started doing last year and what we will continue to do, and I can be held to, is equipping women to use technology to give themselves a voice. Because we've gone past the era of people being a voice for women. So these women need to, you know, need to be their own voices. And so we're training them. We've currently put, there's about 50 of them in a WhatsApp group who ran for elections in February and March of this year. And so it's to equip them with digital skills that help them become their own voices, but not just become their own voices, become voices that are strong enough to vie for, to organize, and to win elections in 2023. The second thing that we're doing that I can be held accountable for is equipping a new cadre of women with just digital skills. As we've become the poverty capital of the world, there's a need to broaden the number of women or increase the number of women who move their businesses from the informal sector to the informal sector to the formal sector, get their registrations out of the way, and really start to scale those businesses. And that's the second thing that we're doing that I can be held accountable for.
All right, thank you. Okay, there's a gentleman right beside. Well, they skipped you. Yeah, because your hand didn't go up immediately, so you were not in the first 5, but we'll come back to you. Yes, and then right beside you.
Thank you very much.
I'll come back to you.
I think I'll thank the organizers for putting this through, and I'll be doing what we call take home, and taking the digital rights and inclusion back home. I want to see in the next 1 year, I'll be able to train another young persons, information sharing on this same stuff at the grassroots to ensure that more people get to know about the digital rights inclusion and how they could advocate for their right being violated. And secondly, I'm looking forward to see how we go to our work. There's a project we are currently working on, I Protect, how young youth and adolescents could also use the internet to solve problems that concerns reproductive health and contraceptives. So I'm currently saying in the next 1 year, the app will be up, and they could ask questions. They can't even ask their mother or wrong pairs. So, and also lastly, I'm looking forward to working with Saul, my Gambia friend and brother, to see how we could do what we call learning experience. I remember in the Gambia, they have this American corner those days, and people do go learn experience, take back to local community, and also share. So expanding this knowledge gap, I want to see how we do what we call like experience sharing between Nigeria and the Gambia, and bridging the West African coast on promoting digital rights.
Please quickly take the mic from him before he says number 4. All right, so.
Thank you very much. This initiative is very laudable, and I encourage Paradigm Initiative to do more of this, and also to continue mentoring organizations like mine, the Given Project, always opening the door for us. Like in relation to the work that I'm doing, we will be expanding our tech project to make it like nationwide, to introduce it in the school system, whereby it doesn't have to be maybe weekends or activities that we'll be organizing to bring these schools. But we want to create these ICT clubs in schools to catch these kids young, to train them on most of these things. And another initiative that we just conceptualizing is the first Gambia Internet Week we're planning to do in October with the School of Journalism, where we will have different stakeholders to come, like activities like robotics competition, where we'll have hackathons, organizations that are in the ICT industry, especially students, to come up with solutions to most of the problems that our communities are facing, and forums like this, high-level forums where we can involve people from the grassroots, policymakers, ministers, and because it's important for us to have them in most of these forums to understand some of these things are happening, and then they need to know, to educate them, because it always helps in decision making. Because most of the time you tell them some of these things, they're totally unaware about some of this, or maybe it's just deliberate. So I believe engaging them, educating them in most of these things will help. So during this Gambia Internet Week, those are some of the activities that we will be having to educate more of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've got another gentleman on that table, and then there's a man directly under the lights. And for those whose hands are up, I've got a question for you, but it's not the same question.
All right, my name is Shamsuddin Abdurazak from Glowing Minds Initiative in Niger State, Nigeria.
Did you say blowing minds?
Glowing.
Glowing,
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, and we started a flagship program last year while I was a still student in Federal University of Technology, Mina, where we come up with student leaders and we teach them on entrepreneurship and tech. So we target Slater. So we had 100 student leaders last year, and they were basically from Federal University of Technology, Mina. So now this year we're expanding our scope to students in higher institutions within Mina Metropolis in Niger State. We have close to about 9 higher institutions there. So that's our target, and we hope to, like by the next, that's coming up sometimes in August. So we hope in the next 1 year, we'll have actually had more people who will also be digital rights activists from that part of the country, because that place is actually silent as far as digital rights activism is concerned.
Okay, we'll hold you responsible if Mina stays quiet and is only known for the Maradona on the hilltop. That's a joke for the Nigerians in the room, by the way.
Hi,
yes,
everyone.
Gentlemen, yes.
My name is, I'm a doctor, a medical doctor in practice. I'm a very young doctor. I graduated some few years ago and I've been in practice. Some people will be wondering why a medical doctor is interested in digital rights and inclusion. While in medical school, to tell you how horrible it is, I had a lot of passion for young persons and graduates who never had who never had the knowledge of the use of internet, talking about digital rights as concern. And that prompted me to go into developing a platform known as African Dream Network International that has done a great work even while I was in my Part 6 before I wrote my final MBBS examination. And that has opened my eyes to understand that most people, most Nigerian graduates and people in the rural setting do not understand the need and the value of internet. As a matter of fact, being a Paradigm Initiative Fellow for this conference is a big one for me. And how did I come about it? It's because of the value and the use of internet. So what are we doing in the next years to come? What am I doing as a doctor in practice? And also considering the impact of internet in the rural setting. I'm not considering those living in the urban setting, because I know in one way or the other you're going to be educated. The WhatsApp is there, the social network is there, we all use them. But there are people in the damn rural settings, because my medical college, University of George Teaching Hospital, is in a very rural setting. So people do not know and do not understand the value of internet. So in African Dream Network, we'll be taking that in the rural part of the community, so that those that are graduates that have the opportunity to have a degree can access jobs through internet and can also get learn through internet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please let me put your hands together for everyone who has made commitments on camera, being recorded, and the internet never forgets. We'll remind you. Auto reminders in 6 months and 1 year. All right, I'm coming back to a panelist, and you know, the question I want to ask is this. And for who are the people that raised their hands? Don't change your minds. I've got a question for you. Not the same question. Let me see the hands. Don't be scared. Don't worry. It's not a tough question. I see you, Kibuba. All right. Actually, before I come back to the panelists, I want to ask. So my question to you, for those whose hands are up, is this. You were going to answer the question about what you will do for the next year, but let me just twist that a bit and ask you, what challenges do you see? And this is what I want to ask before I come back to the panel. What challenges do you see? You want to do lofty things. I mean, I don't know how many of you took your pen and paper in December and wrote the, what's it called again? See? The New Year resolutions, and it's okay, we won't say too much about that. But what challenges do you see? What is it that stands between you and what you would have loved to do in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year? Who raised their hand first among that? Okay, yes, the gentleman in front here. What challenge? If you have no challenges, just say pass, and then I'll go to the next person.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joshua Oba. I'm a Google Policy Fellow intern with Public and Private Development Center. I think before I will tell my challenge, I should give a background on what I hope to do so that you understand where my challenge is coming from.
Unfortunately, the only question that I can take a response to right now is the challenge. Don't worry, in that challenge, we will see the problem you are trying to solve.
Okay, on that aspect, I would say the challenge is the longevity of my fellowship. Because I think since I'm a Google Policy Fellow, ordinarily it is supposed to elapse by May. So I think after May, every of my activity, my intervention will be on a personal basis if the fellowship is not elongated. So on that basis, I think it's a challenge.
I will take that up with your supervisor at PPDC. Okay, that's a very direct one. I didn't expect that. Not you, sir. Sorry, not him. Not him. He's asked the question. He already said what he's doing. We're going to new people now for challenges. Remember, I don't remember who said that. Something about making sure we don't see the same faces every time. I don't remember who said that on the panel. Oh yeah, that was Gigi. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm James Ladu from South Sudan. The challenges that I will be facing in 6 months' time to come is that back home in my country, many people don't know the use of digital right. So it will be a big challenge if I go like today and start, advocating for the issue about digital rights. So it's going to be very difficult because some of them, they don't know, and about 60% people in the rural area and both in the town, they don't know the use of the internet. So it's going to be a very difficult challenge. Thank you.
Awareness challenge. All right. Thank you. I'll come to the... Okay, Kivuva, you had your hand up. Okay, yes. Then after that, we'll go to that table for the lady and the gentleman there. Any other hand that was up? Yes, I love it when I see people from the front raise their hands. All right, Kivuva.
So this is Mwendwa Kivuva from Kenya City Action Network, Kiktanet. So our challenge, we wanted to be able to access policymakers, parliamentarians, for example, regulators, and bring them up to speed with digital rights, issues of data protection, privacy, and all that. So the big challenge is actually making them understand, having them commit their time, for example. For example, we always engage the parliamentarians in Kenya on issues like data protection, but probably they only have like 2 hours. They only give you 2 hours
for the opening ceremony.
Yeah, they come for opening ceremony. Actually, that is actually very true. Like when you had such a meeting on cybersecurity. So when they go, they are still confused. They still don't understand these issues. So how to make them understand these issues so that when they are making these laws, these policies, they make policies that are wholesome, that are actually policies that cover the people. So
all right.
That's our challenge.
All right, thank you. How do we make policy makers stay beyond the opening ceremony? All right.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Amina Abdulaziz, and for me, the challenge I'm having and that I've been having is 2. Number 1, personally myself, I believe I still need to build more capacity in this aspect, and I see the importance of digital rights and inclusion, being a female from the north. So I really want it to be taken far. I'm from Kebbi State. So the major challenge now here is I want to also empower others, even based with my knowledge, taking people there, logistic of getting people there, and having the government buy-in. I've written to the government and somebody in power, trying to see how we could do. And before the election, the person promised me that, okay, when he gets the ticket for Senate, we partner so that he will train people. Unfortunately, he did not get the ticket, and that died down. So we have been having issue. And if I say I want to bring my friends, I base in Abuja. If I want to take my friend, where will I house them? How will I feed them for the number of days? Going to Kebbi from Abuja is about 10, 12 hours. And if I want to fly, then did I have the money?
So this is still the first challenge, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's just a major challenge. It's logistics.
Logistics.
Yeah.
By logistics, you mean money?
Manpower, money.
Manpower.
Yes. Because
resources,
we don't have resources.
Human resource.
Yes.
Financial resources.
Yes.
Capacity.
Yes,
okay,
capacity.
all right.
So if Paradigm, I know you're doing something in Northwest Kebbi, in Kano. I don't know if you can look beyond Kano and think of Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara. We really need the life project. Yeah.
I have a boss in Kano. His name, okay, I won't tell you his name. All right. His name is Umar, actually. All right. We've got, yes, there's the, oh yeah, right behind the cameraman. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Olamide Ilori. I work as a network support engineer with IPNX Nigeria Limited, one of the internet service provider in Nigeria. And some of the challenges I envisage in the coming year, especially as it relates to internet access, is government regulations and laws as it affects telecommunication operators and players in that sector. For instance, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, the NCAA gave a threat that after 1 month, they're going to destroy about 7,000 mass communication sites in Nigeria because of aviation height clearance. These are some of the issues. The forth and back we have with government regulations put telecommunication operators at risk of even developing a profitable business model that works for them and also for subscribers. And also with regards to 5G, the what's the advent of 5G, basically if we look at it, in the continent, especially in Nigeria, for example, it looks as if we don't even have the regulations or the enabling environments to include some of these, cater for these new developments. For instance, 5G comes with, we require probably the release of wider radio spectrums for its usage. But in Nigeria, we know the rigorous process that it takes for even NCC to bring some of these processes to play. So I feel basically government regulations with government agencies will be one of the biggest challenges in the coming years.
The hard word, regulations. All right. I'll come back again. Allow me to come to you, Ashraf, to start with you. So you've heard some of the challenges, and I know that you have some in mind already. So what do you think is the way forward? So we're here right now. We're looking at the next 1 year. That's the vision. That is where we want to go. These are the challenges. How do we scale these hurdles?
I think when it comes to digital rights in Africa, it's going to be always a challenge between us and our own populations. Because when we talk about digital rights, we've always been accused of talking about luxury. That people they're poor and the people are hungry, and you're talking to them about digital rights, and then they'll tell you you're there in your ivory coast, ivory tower, and you don't reflect the needs of the people, which is partially right and partially wrong, because if we as civil society, we don't show them their own challenges, that would be an ethical problem for civil society. So for me, the first challenge is definitely to align the needs of the people with the right discourse, and always manage to market the digital rights, not really as a luxury, but something that they should be aware of. The second challenge definitely is the transparency of the algorithms of the big corporates. Most of us are the product for Facebook, we're product for WhatsApp, we're the product for Twitter. But the thing is, we don't know how these algorithms function. And I remember meeting with the Facebook public policy team, and they tell you, we thought that we are transparent, but you guys are always asking for more. And I remember telling him, you're not transparent. We don't know how you guys function. There are blurbs in the internet, they tell about what they intend to do, but we don't know how the business plan is working. But what we know from the business plan of Facebook, that it has been literally built in a way that gathers information to the point of spying on people so that they know how to target. So that's really scary, but at the same time, we need to make global advocacy, or at least in our continent, we should always advocate towards having more transparency into these algorithms, because somehow indirectly they will be affecting our own lives, whether in politics or even on a daily life. The third challenge, I think, is the type of discourse that we're having in this room. It's really a challenge that at the same time we need to keep this discourse of the right and our rights and the digital rights in general, but if we stay too much on this topic and into this discourse, we risk to be literally archaic and out of history. Because most of our countries are not democratic, we find ourselves literally discussing the basics. I mean, in the 21st century, does it make sense that we're still discussing this? Yes, because of our countries are not democracies. That's why we're discussing the obvious. So the big debate for me is always democracy. And from democracy, there will be the rights. But why I'm saying if we stay too long on this debate, we risk to be archaic, because what people are discussing now is artificial intelligence, the new industrial revolution 4.0. By the time we're done discussing rights, we will be missing the only opportunity to be in the same page with at least one industrial revolution. We missed enough industrial revolutions, and we risk to miss the only industrial revolution possible for Africa to be part of, which is this industrial revolution, because it doesn't take much. It takes soft skills and internet. It doesn't need engines or anything. And because we're staying too much on the discourse of the digital rights, we risk not to be there when everything is happening. And it is happening as we speak now. And then Google picking Ghana for its AI lab, that's no coincidence. They know very well the potential of this continent. But decision makers, sometimes us, we don't know our own potential. And I hope that, because we cannot stop talking about the digital rights, I hope that while talking about the digital rights, we keep talking about what's going on, artificial intelligence, algorithm, automatization, all these things, that they will not wait for us. People are losing jobs because of automatization. People are losing jobs because of algorithms and artificial intelligence. Are the unions in our countries discussing the future of work? They're not. If we keep this debate just into the rights and the digital rights, we risk to be literally cut from the context of our own societies. And for me, this is literally a nightmare, because people will be losing jobs. And we're not talking about blue-collar jobs. We're talking about doctors, lawyers. Today, a chatbot can literally replace a judge. A robot can replace a doctor. And it's happening in China. And for me, that's really scary. The fourth, and I promise the last point, it's not really a challenge, but it's really a request. We talked about ICT for development, artificial intelligence for development. We gotta use data, guys, in campaigning. Companies will use data to sell more. And if we compare the cause we're advocating for a product, we gotta sell it more. We gotta sell more democracy. We gotta sell more rights, more human rights. We gotta sell more education. And this needs the right packaging, but the right marketing strategy. We gotta use data. That's how people know the behavior, and that's how we can win. So it's not really advice, my wish, my resolution would be, we gotta at a certain point start using data to be sharper and to be more efficient in defending our cause. Because I think sometimes we're very into feeling good because we think we are on the right side of history. We are doing the good thing. We are doing the right thing. And doing the right thing comes with that comfort of, yes, that's already enough. No, it's not. We gotta be as committed as our governments are to putting us into jails. We gotta be as serious as those corrupt people who are taking our money. So we gotta be as professional, as committed, as determined to win. So for me, using data properly could be one way of doing it so that we can win the cause.
Okay. We'll pat ourselves on the back, but just before we finish patting ourselves on the back, we got to get to work immediately. All right, so, Gigi, obstacles in our path. How do we scale this order so we can get to that point of being able to do the real work? And I think Ashraf has made a very interesting point. The government, and by this I'm not painting the entire government infrastructure as the enemy. You know, the elements of the state, the elements of private sector, and the elements of any other sector that are working to maybe pull things down are working overtime. How do we work to catch up and then eventually maybe even start setting the pace?
I'm not sure we need to catch up. I think we just need to do what is right from our perspective and as people who work in policy. I think one of the things that we must do, we've just been told that Wakabi has been detained at the airports. We don't know what's going to happen, but as it is, it doesn't matter even if they detain you for 5 minutes. It's a very stressful moment. So we must be in solidarity with CIPESA, and not just CIPESA, but as organizations working in digital rights. We are going to be seeing more and more of these probably arrests or threats. So we must, as people working in this area, work in solidarity with our own or these other organizations. There's a whole question of internet dynamism, and I commented about it, but I'm just commenting from we are working in cybersecurity, we are working in data protection, and many other programs. Then before 2 months are over, before we get into April, we must start dealing with the issue of the digital ID and many other new things that come up as a result of the dynamism of the internet. So, you know, as civil society, you know, how prepared are we when these new challenges come in? How prepared are we in terms of Internet of Things and artificial intelligence? We are the people who raise ethical issues in these technologies. We are the people who raise ethical issues when these international companies seem to breach either our privacy or whatever it is that they breach. We are the ones who sensitize and raise that voice. How prepared are we? Are we going out there to learn and to equip ourselves with skills of what this artificial intelligence is all about and the possible scenarios it's going to affect our work? The issue of Internet of Things, how knowledgeable are we to be able to then be the lead voice in either confronting ethical concerns or looking at where breaches might come in? And I think, you know, that's really a challenge that we must deal with. I think another challenge that we experience as civil society is skepticism by certain stakeholders. So when it's not convenient for them, they call us noisemakers. They call us rabble rousers. They start asking questions. Who has given us the mandate to represent the citizens, of a nation? And those will continue, especially by the fact that we are ahead. We got into this sector way ahead of those who regulate, and therefore we are more knowledgeable, and we are able to put up a case of why we should do certain things. So you're going to be seeing that skepticism is going to continue. So we in digital rights, how well placed are we to confront that, or to make sure, like I said, that the show must go on, that we will not be discouraged by that skepticism. And that I want to relate it with the fact that as those of us working in civil society have seen some sort of favoritism when you speak of multi-stakeholderism, and you're thinking that multi-stakeholderism is about recognizing that each stakeholder has a responsibility into making sure that this cake called internet is well baked and that the icing is correct. But you find that when you sit and you're bringing in, you're saying, I am the one who will be doing the icing, you realize that the person who thinks that they provide the sugar and the cream then decide you're not the one who will use it. So we've seen favoritism, especially of the businesses. And I think that will still continue. So how well placed are we to ensure that our role and is recognized, and that we still have our responsibility, that of providing a public good to the internet, that of ensuring that human rights are not trampled upon, ensuring that we have a balance between the freedom of expression and freedom of regulation, etc. I think another challenge is on, we do the work that we are involved in is a lot of advocacy. Sometimes advocacy processes can be long, can be tedious, and sometimes they don't bear result rapidly the way you'd expect. So sometimes it will be long, it will be 4 or 5 years before you can see the result. And within that time, some people get discouraged and fall off the wagon. So, are we ready and are we prepared to deal with that fatigue where people wait and they're not seeing anything? Because this is a reality. And I think one of the things, finally, I want to say, there's the whole issue of sustainability, not just sustainability of funding, but sustainability of our workforce. We have very good people, and I'll give like the example of Kictonet. We are a very good training ground. We mentor, we give opportunities. In no time, we have started seeing, our good workforce going to work for these international tech organizations, which is good for us because the issue of upward mobility is a reality, and especially as civil society, you're not able to compete with those international organizations. And I think for us, yes, that's a challenge because your very good workforce has to move. But how prepared are we? Do we have a strategy to replace rapidly and to make sure that we have good, personnel that still continues to agitate for digital rights? Because this is a dynamic field that will continue.
Thank you. How do we build a pipeline? All right. So, Charlie, how do we scale them to get where we need to get to?
I think you will allow me to come back to what Ashraf was saying about this as we keep talking about digital rights. I think it's just a natural outcome of our context. And we need to understand that because it's where we are as countries, as a continent. How come that we will be talking digital rights if we were in Australia or US? They don't talk about digital rights. They talk of something else. That is a kind of evolution, or maybe that is a step after digital rights. Because they don't have shut down internet, but that's what we struggle with. So if you don't make sure those guys don't shut down internet, what will you talk after when you don't have internet? You can't. So we are kind of prisoners of our context. That's the problem. So we need to be talking about this digital right. And especially because so many of us, when you look at our countries, in our countries till today, we still believe, maybe not you, but millions of Africans still believe that the father of the country is the one giving water, giving electricity. It's that the general, and you see it when election time comes. You see clearly that people believe that President Paul Biya is a father. He has given us internet. So when he shuts down internet, it's almost normal that he will, like you do with your kid at home, that you give something, he is not in agreement with you and you take it back and you wait until you start. And that's how we thought. And it's something you might think, maybe I'm joking, but that's the truth. And it also relates to internet, to any kind of rights that you have in our country. And if you see, and this kind of, this kind of reading that people have with their relationship with those who govern us, governs everything. And we need to make sure people understand clearly that digital right, or maybe any right, need to be claimed. Because those guys are not there, they are not angels. They are there to make sure that you are shut down, even your mouth. You don't speak out because they are there with some of kind of aims that have nothing to do with your personal or maybe daily interest. So we need to make sure we speak of this. And we speak of this because it's a kind of corridor to speak of other rights. Because, yes, we have decided to go for digital rights. It is not because so many of those rights, we are already enjoying them. It's because we have nothing. We are just choosing our own way of talking of rights. It has nothing to do with digital, actually. It has to do with rights. Because we are talking of digital rights, but where do we enjoy rights offline? In which country do we enjoy any rights? In Cameroon now, you have a kind of civil war. And our main leaders of political parties, they are all in jail now. All in jail after elections just because they decided to contest the results of elections. So you don't enjoy this. And we need to, for me, digital rights, it's right. But as you add digital, it gives you more ways to speak of these things without, making them hungry. Because when you talk of it, you have the advantage that you are talking of something they are not even aware of. So you have something else that when you come, they look at the digital side of the rights, So as they look at it, you understand clearly that you can use this to talk of right. When I invite Benga, you send us your digital right bill, mentoring us on this. When I invited the president of Law Commission at the National Assembly, he was there. He was in the workshop in my office. He was in the workshop with the secretary of the commission. That means the two top leaders, top staff of the commission, they went to learn about, they came here to learn about what is this issue of digital rights. And then you can speak of rights because there is a space that is offered. And then we met at the Prime Minister's office to talk of this. And he was presenting me to staff at the Prime Minister's office and saying, no, this guy is a wonderful guy. He's talking of things that are very interesting. So, so this is very interesting. And I will advise you, maybe if you are in a difficult context, use this aspect of digital. Everything you just talk about, we can use those things, to frame a new narrative, to open those spaces. Because when you will explain to our governance that artificial intelligence will make us lose jobs, I think they will understand this. Because they are there to create jobs, at least apparently, officially. So when you will explain this, they will understand, and that will open space. For me, I don't think we are ready to speak of those things because we don't have electricity, we don't even have internet. Internet is very expensive in our countries. But being aware of this gives us a kind of sharpness when you speak with them because it's clear that intellectually speaking, you show them that you have a step above. Yes. And this is very important for this relationship because if you look at the kind of relationship that we have, when you are on the same space with those who govern us, they disguise us. You know it, right? They have a kind of condescending, they look at you from top. When you bring all this, I'm talking of my personal experience, when you bring all these issues, algorithm bias, what is it? And then, it creates a kind of playing, level playing field. You can speak now, and next time he will invite you. So let's use all those things, all those new things to open the floor. That's one of the strategies. And next now, I think we need to build coalitions. Because, see, you were talking about artificial intelligence, transparency of algorithm, and so on. I'm a member of the IEEE, Algorithm of Bias Working Group. But it is not a common topic. So we need coalitions, because in coalition, your expertise, my expertise, Benga's expertise, that has nothing to do maybe with algorithm guys. That will be, put in the basket, and then people will learn from this, from our mutual strengths and expertise. So we need Benga, and I guess you are leading us to this. We need to build coalitions. In all our countries, he was talking of MENA, of Maghreb, we need coalition there. And we have started building coalition in Cameroon, but I'm coming from Central African Republic, and I've been talking of building a coalition because CEMAC, our regional commission, has opened a little door to work with them. So I'm using the space to tell them, no, we are already talking of digital rights. And you can guess that that's not a topic at a regional level of Central Africa. They don't talk of this. So for me, the results, or maybe our own strategy needs to be attached to building a wonderfully strong coalition in Africa.
We need the silos to be connected so we can be stronger together. All right, Kivuva, my attention was drawn to your hands going up. Like, if you don't say that, we should not end this forum. So say your piece.
Thank you very much, Benga, for giving me this opportunity. This is Kivuva from Kiktanet. I want to be, if Charlie is in North Pole, I want to be at the South Pole, because I want to disagree with him completely, especially when he says that digital rights issues are not in the West. They are only in developing countries like Africa. Because we know issues like, we know Snowden happened. We know WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. We know about Bradley Manning, and he actually served jail term for releasing classified data. We know about Apple being forced to crack encryption of their phones. We know when WikiLeaks was released, public libraries in US were actually, their IP address were blocked. The federal staff were denied to access this information. And this is actually US. So actually, digital rights issues are not only in Africa. They are global. So Africa, we're not unique. We only need to actually advocate more, make sure our policymakers understand, and actually our citizenry understand these digital rights issues. But they are everywhere. They're in Europe, Australia, Americas, North, South, everywhere. So that was my intervention.
Yeah, thank you. I thought you were going to mention that the United Kingdom shut down the internet on trains because of protests and incidents. But since you didn't mention that, I'm just throwing it in there. That is not to say that because it is done by everyone, it's okay and everybody does it. But you're right. It's not only an African problem, but I guess when you wear the shoes, you know where inches more. Ours is a special brand. Because when someone refuses to leave office, and you know that in 6 years they're going to stand for elections again and they're going to win percent, and all their opponents are going to go to jail, then that's not just violations. That is dehumanization. It's terrible. We've got 5 minutes, and I want to give a minute each to my wonderful panelists to close with a thought. These are trying times. These are interesting times. As the proverb goes, one of Nigeria's leading educationists, Tai Sholaren, said, "May your road be rough." It's a very wonderful prayer. And that's the prayer I pray for everyone here. It's not even a prayer I'm praying. It is your reality. It's your lived reality. Our roads will be rough because we're not minding our businesses. We're working for the betterment of the country. So in 1 minute, how do you, in the midst of all these complexities and being pushed from every side, how do you retain your sanity? How do you unplug? How do you detox? How do you make sure you don't burn out and just become history? Because like Gigi said, the show will continue. Obviously. If you burn yourself to the ground, the show will continue. How do we make sure in the next 1 year, we're working hard, we've got to expand, we've got to use the Bitcoin strategy, we've got to do this, do that. How do you as a person detox? How do you maintain your sanity so you can be strong for the days of battle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not really the person to ask because I don't know. I don't do it that often. Sometimes I have this idea of life is too short for me to enjoy it. And just the opposite of life is too short, so we gotta enjoy it. So I can think of so many problems that and say like, I'm pretty sure it's really something that everyone in the room feels. Like sometimes when you go and try to enjoy something, you feel guilty because you say, well, I'm enjoying, somebody's paying bribery now. So at a certain point, I think it's a mental process, it's a mental journey when you try to convince yourself that it's just life. So recently I started developing a part of trivial, stupid life when I would just go and do literally nothing, or I would go see follow a fight between two rappers who clash themselves or whatever, like two football players, and I would literally try to go and read every single aspect of that. So I discovered that when your mind is going into looking for new details that they will not consume its energy, that might get them a bit distracted. So now that's the new way. And of course playing football. That's the best way. That's the best detox.
So, play football. Or soccer, as some people call it.
But really, like on a serious note, just it's very important that you take good care of yourself. And for me, like the one time I discovered that was when I was taking the plane, and for the first time after years of traveling, just I had that moment when in the instructions they've been telling us, in case the mask goes down, you gotta put on the mask first and then put on the mask for your kid. And I was like, why is that? Because if you're not safe, the kid won't be safe. If you're not safe, the cause won't be safe. So make sure you're safe.
Be safe. Gigi, how do we stay safe and ahead of this chaos?
For me, like I said, the show is ours. The show must go on. However, if there are risks, I don't think there's anything worth your life. You cannot be Jesus. When I was young and when I worked in broadcasting, I thought I could change the world. I only realized I could change so much. So I always tell people, tomorrow will come. So nothing is worth your life. If anything threatens your life, please remember you need to be here tomorrow because internet is dynamic. There'll be new challenges waiting for you. And as I close, I just want to say, let's also celebrate the positive things that have come up in a year. Let's celebrate good laws that enable us to operate. Let's celebrate good initiatives by civil society that allow us to meet like now. Let's celebrate the partners who support us to be here and be together, because we always forget to celebrate. So we sound like we're always complaining and as if there's nothing new. But there are very many positive things that come up from governments, from civil society, from development partners. Let's set some time to celebrate. Thank you.
I hereby announce that at 7 p.m. tonight we're celebrating. Okay, I'm looking for Tokwe and the rest of the team. Did I say the right thing? Yes, I did. Seriously, we've got to be here tomorrow. The journey is long. Trust me. All right, Charlie.
I'm kind of natural lover of positive things, and Gigi just said it, and I think we need to. She said celebrate things. I will just say we need to celebrate, and we will add the salt of solidarity, like we just did with CPSA staff, and I think that's the great security that we have. You know, if we are in this space, keeping in our mind that we are not alone, I think we won't be off. because we know clearly that we need to be on for the show to go on. Thank you.
This is the part where I ask you to please put your hands together for the amazing, amazing panel. The show must go on. Okay. Can you now please put your hands together for yourselves for being an amazing audience. All right. Can I invite the panelists to please come forward? I know there's a lady that comes around and says pictures. There she is. Please put your hands together for her. And all the other people with cameras. Yes, please go ahead and take the pictures. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop talking because this is the part where I start saying the thank yous. And thank you, you're right. We will celebrate. We would like to, first of all, celebrate the volunteers that made sure that everything got tied together. Any volunteers in the room? I know some of them are outside. Any volunteers in the room? Yeah. On behalf of, Takwa is trying to get them inside. If you can get some inside, would like to say thank you to them. These are people who, like you, registered to participate at the event, but also decided to spend some extra time to make sure that registration happens and that when the stage needs to have 5 seats, it has 5. When it needs to have 4, it has 4, and things like that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Ashraf. All right. The second group that I want to thank are the people that left their countries and their states within Nigeria and their homes and came to join us at DRIF 19. Okay, I thought he was talking to me when he said that's very nice. He's talking to someone else. All right, can you do me a favor? Can you turn around, look for someone beside you, and help me thank them? Thank you for making DRIF 19. For all the great things that happened here, thank them. For all the things that are not so great, you can look in my direction. That's fine. We will do better next year because we're a learning organization. And I also want to say thank you to our partners. Some of our partners are literally ride and die. You know, ride and die partners. Ford Foundation, thank you very much. Would like to say a big thank you. Can you please help us put your hands together for Ford Foundation? Google. And Rich Ball Foundation. Someone asking me to call them. All right, this is the part where I bring up a certain group of people. They are superstars, some stars. Can I ask that you please, I beg people to do this every year, and if you don't mind, I'd ask you to do this again. I know it's a bit uncomfortable to ask you to stand, but can I please ask you to stand and make welcome a special group of people? Do you mind standing for a second? No, not a second, a minute. Please rise, please rise. This is the part where the DJ, plays the song, stand up for the if I ever create an album, I advise you against your own interest not to buy. All right, can I invite every member of staff of Paradigm Initiative here to please come forward? Someone saw me yesterday and said, "You don't look like you're organizing an event. You're having too much fun." Well, I'm an ambassador on stage of this thing.
How can spread this message like nobody? Let nobody come here, they come before. I know say maybe everybody follow up. I know me every see the come. Make them make on the wash. But make you do exactly what you want. You say I don't tell you.
Is anyone listening?
The devil come to you this thing.
Where's Inka? Where's Tosin? They are still doing logistics. They're doing logistics towards 7. And I'm not kidding, by the way. Am I right? Okay. No, I know the name. I know the name. So there are buses that leave. What time do the buses leave? Okay, so Someone is coming up in a few minutes, and we'll give you details. I wasn't kidding when I said at 7 p.m. tonight we celebrate, and I'm not kidding at all. The goats have been killed. you see, if anybody beside you shouted when I said goat, just know that they carry a green passport. Nigerians, you can kidnap them with asun. They see goats. We were at one of these meetings in, I think it was Amsterdam, and someone showed us a pet, a goat. And a Nigerian colleague came close and said, asun. Anyway, I'd like to say a big thank you to these are the ladies and gentlemen who literally delivered this. If anything went right, look to my left. And I know there are some things we can improve on. Just look to this side, okay? And we will give you the URL for the, actually, are we going to put it up? Can you please put up the URL for the evaluation forms? Please, before you leave, let's have your feedback, because it is compulsory as a learning organization that every forum is better than the one before it. Please put your hands together for Boye. Well, some of you call him in full Adeboye Adegoke. Boye is in charge of our digitalized program for Anglophone West Africa. Eze. Iweze is the man who makes our program in Abia State, Southeast Nigeria possible. We're on the different ends of the political spectrum in Nigeria. I'm the current winner. And actually, I think we're now on the same side because my candidate has disappointed. But please put your hands together for Eze. You saw the digital inclusion booth. And this is the first year, by the way, that we're actually showing you the other side of our work. I'm going to skip talk by Tunde. Baba Tunde is our research lead, and some of you will be disturbed in the next few months. Say I hear. Say I agree. Tunde will disturb you. Some people say that they don't agree, okay? We understand consent and we respect it. But Tunde is the one who will disturb you to say, in your country, what is going on? Because at the end of the year, we need to document everything. Documentation is important for us so that history is not edited. It's important. So that when we tell you that a dictator jailed someone in 1994 in Nigeria, you can't say it didn't happen. We can go back to the records and show you that it happened. Sadiq is our communications guy. Every time you get those, I really want to say thank you. So when I got the message on the stage that our partner Wakabi was detained, the first thing I did, I'm sure some of you saw me fiddling with my phone, was to check to be sure that we had released a very strongly worded statement to say that this is unacceptable and you have to act immediately. And I know that he was busy working on drift, but at the same time had to make sure that we release a statement. Thank you. The next person, Sadiq, is the money woman. Sheyi, yes. If you've seen anything happen on time, without delays in terms of resources, that's the woman. Thank you very much, Sheyi. Bulanda is new to the team, but she's not new to the team. Bulanda is from Zambia. She's a Southern African Google Policy Fellow. But the thing about Paradigm Initiative is that if you're an intern or a fellow, it doesn't feel like it, really, because the work is plenty. Your work is not graded by internship or fellowship. Your work is graded by the need. So thank you very much. Well, someone told me you have a new name, and the new name is Becky. I know you as Rebecca, but your twin sister says you're called Becky. Rebecca is from a country I won't mention its name. I will actually. And one of the things we do in our work is to make sure that even when our team members work in Tanzania, it's so crazy that the story is literally writing itself. She works in Tanzania. She coordinates our work within East Africa. So you can be sure that some words are going out immediately about the incident that happened today. And the gentleman who was looking down, I think, oh, okay, actually, there are two of them now. Okay, there are two of them now. It's almost strange to see anybody wearing, suit and tie in the office, but these people do, and we love them for it. In the heat of the entire work in was it Yaoundé or Douala? Where was that? It was really hot. I saw that Rigobert still had his suit and tie. And I said, I salute you. Rigobert leads Francophone Africa work. And as you can see, I mean, he's got his briefcase. his tablet. His data. Oh, he's got the data. Thank you very much for the work that you do. Angela is part of a digital inclusion team. She's a program assistant in Ajegule. And thank you, because without the inclusion part of our work, we're not a complete organization. That is the link for the English version of the tinyurl/drift19en. Of course, you can imagine the French version will be what? Drift 2019 FR. Okay, great. Okay, Adeboro is a lawyer. She's part of our digital right to work in Anglophone West Africa. And when those legal issues come up, she's the one that goes into lawyer mode and gets something. And by the way, we won one of our cases last year against the Ministry of Science and Technology in Nigeria. We'll win a bit more. Something tells me we'll soon win a case on cybercrime at the Supreme Court. I hope I haven't jinxed it. All right, we don't have Emmanuel here. Emmanuel Vitos is from Togo. He's based in Togo, actually. We don't even know if he's from Togo again or from Ghana, because every time he's traveling to Nigeria for work and things, he's always traveling from Ghana. So we think we're not sure of his citizenship anymore, but I think he's Togolese. He's not here right now, but some of you have met Emmanuel. He works with Rigobert for Francophone Africa work. Olayinka Taiwo is with our digital inclusion team. He's not on stage right now because he's trying to get you included in tonight's activity, and also Tosin, who is the program manager for digital inclusion. Tokwe is our director of programs, anchoring. Yeah. I work with stars. Yes, you can. Okay, she leads the digital inclusion and digital rights program, and so that person who asked me why I could smile. Well, so a few days ago, Tokwe and I had one of those conversations you have when an event is about to happen. Those conversations like, oh my God, and I was like, you know what? We'll have one job during this forum. We will smile. We will have fun. We'll enjoy it so that our participants and delegates can see that joy radiate from us and enjoy it. And so every day I see her, I saw her yesterday, why are you not smiling? Are you smiling? So, but Tokwe has coordinated has put this together with the help of the entire team. And I would like you to please, for those of you that made the mistake of coming to me, to say thank you. You are doing amazing work. You are forgiven for saying the wrong things. So look this way and please say a huge thank you to this amazing men and women. My colleagues are stars, so I think I'm a star. All right, thank you very much. Please do us a huge favor. Make sure that you complete the evaluation form now. Yes, please. Star photograph. Maybe you guys can now add me to that WhatsApp group. Can you? Apparently, we've had a secret WhatsApp group, and now I'm publicly asking to be added to the group. I should ask. You fought for me. Okay, I see you. All right, so tonight please don't forget, I should join them. Thank you, this is a privilege. All right, so at 6:45 p.m., how many of us are available for the celebration tonight at 7 p.m.? Some people are like, I was born ready, man. All right, so we'll have buses at 6:45. It's 3 minutes drive from here. If some people want to walk, it's about 17 minutes walk. Someone came to me yesterday that, they wanted to walk. As a Lagosian, it was kind of strange to me. Lagosians take cabs from this hotel to the next building. Okay, but at 6:45, please be there at 6:45. The reason why we are not, at the entrance of the building at 6:45. The reason I would not advise that you go change and come back. It's not that, don't worry, it's not that bad. You look great, don't worry, you don't have to go and change. And I mean, of course, we're not announcing the venue because everyone, we have a reservation for 50 people already. And I see that we're less than 50 who want to be there. But if we have to, we can change that reservation to 100. That venue can accommodate that. There's food, there's drinks, there's music, and there's live music. Okay. At 6:45 at the lobby downstairs. At the entrance of this hotel. 6:45 tonight. That's in exactly 1 hour. In exactly 1 hour, please meet us downstairs. At the entrance of the building. No, there's no direct flights there. We have to go together. We have to go together. Yes. You see, she's asking for flavor. Okay, you're looking for flavor. Okay, when we finish tonight, we'll tell you, we'll give you Flavor's email address to go look for him. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Please fill the evaluation form before you leave, and see you at 6:45 tonight. Can I ask, the last announcement that I have to make, my last job, the last thing I have to do every year, is to tell you to mark your calendars, to save the date. Drum roll. Save the date. Don't delay with your visas wherever this is going to happen. April 21 to 23, 2020. It's not far, trust me. Yes, as you can see, every year we've announced the venue in advance. This year you're not seeing the venue. Because the venue is unpredictable as at now. It's still being cooked. Okay, but you will definitely know as soon as registrations open, usually in July. And by then, of course, the venue will be confirmed. So thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you at Drift 20, April 21 to 23, 2020. Thank you very much. DJ, you can cue the music again.
Thank you very much.
Productions. Help me spread this message like global. Let nobody come here, they come before. I know say no be everybody follow come. I know be everybody be still the come. Make them no come to wash. But make you do exactly what you want. Make you don't say I don't tell you. Make you know the devil come to use you. But if I tell you say I love you, I beg you, no go tell me to